we come together this day, there is much to celebrate and there is much activity as we look at the dogs and the cats, the children, one another, gathered here in this place. I'd like to begin, though, in a slightly different place. That is that tender place. For you see, as we come into worship today and as we look at the pets around us, perhaps you, like me, are mindful of the pets who have gone before. I remember the first cat that I had that we lost. And I think of this last year, having an incredible dog, Maddie, with whom I had journeyed for 13 years. And her finally having to say goodbye. There is a tenderness there as we recognize the significance of those we journey with. And even as we come to the text that Jesus shares with us, we recognize both the wonder of being called into community and into relationship, as well as the significance of those times of brokenness and change. We hear of those times where relationships aren't working out, where divorce happens, even amidst those that are trying. And here, Jesus works to reframe what has been put out there by saying that we are called into relationship with one another, and that there are times where our hearts become hardened, where things don't work out as we would hope or plan, where relationships fall apart. And he calls us back to a place of being in relationship, but he does it in a new way, saying that men and women are equal. One is not to be subordinate to another. And takes us back to that place of a tender young age, saying that we are invited to be like the children, to enter the realm, the kingdom of heaven, like children, as children. A wonderful, tender image of open arms. If you are like me, you remember in your Sunday school Bibles from when you were young, or the pictures that hung on the wall in Sunday school classrooms of Jesus welcoming the children, and usually having one on his knee or on his lap, and many more gathered around. As we come here today, we are invited into that place, that tender place. And we are invited back to the very beginning of creation. As Don spoke and talked of this text, I love that he added that this is a myth. It is a myth within our Christian church. Not meaning that it's untrue, but meaning that the facts aren't all there. That it doesn't make sense just on its own. But within that myth, we know that there is a larger truth, and that is that we are called into relationship. Called into relationship with one another and with the creatures of the earth. We are called deeply and profoundly. Martin Luther, as the one who organized the Reform movement in the 1500s, was well aware of the way we are called into relationship. He lifted up that relationship, that calling of being a spouse, of being a parent, as being one of the most significant, but also called us into how we live that out in all of our relationships. Being good stewards, caring for neighbor, caring for the earth, the world. So today as we gather, we come from those places of wonder, of story. We come from those places of tenderness and memories. Those places of brokenness, where maybe the world isn't quite as we had imagined or hoped for. But hearing again Jesus' words of welcome, that we, like the children who gather, come and are invited into a wonder and awe of faith. There's so much that can be said on many of these texts today with regard to divorce and relationship, especially if you, like me, opened up the Star, or didn't even have to open up, if you looked at the Star Tribune this morning, there's much that can be said. But I am aware of who is here and how we are in relationship, and would rather spend our time living in that relationship today and honoring the way that we continue to live into newness of life with the whole creation. So, with that, let us say Amen and continue by singing our hymn.